Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
Welcome once again to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I have with me my very special guest, Mr. Gene.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
And for today's topic, one and only topic, because we're going to kind of make this a short podcast, is going to be on Star Wars, which is our favorite subject.
Wait, we don't like Star Trek? Okay, we won't deviate from the
It's our favorite subject right now.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Got it. We've got ADD. It's fine. Don't worry. Okay. Ooh, something
I
shiny.
spell ADD. Exactly. Ba-dum-bo. Seriously, folks, I'll be here until Friday. Try the deal.
Whatever you
want.
want.
All right, next. Okay. So, we're going to break this up into two segments. First, we're going to talk about our memories, recollections of Star Wars growing up. And in the second half, we're going to talk briefly about the new animated movie, the series, and what the future of Star Wars, at least what we think will happen or what's the relevance to it now. So, let's go back into our time machine, back all the way back to 1977.
All right, sure. Set the Wayback Machine for these coordinates and layout. Okay, good.
It was the year that was.
Does anyone remember what that was? Mr. Peabody, what? Okay, go ahead.
Well, C. Sherman. Anywho, so 1977. Do you remember anything about 1977?
Well, if I say how old I was, it dates me. Yeah, I remember a lot of things. Elvis Presley passed away.
But then again, who would date you? Well, sorry, you do have a date.
Yeah, I do.
But not
I'm
back
very
then.
happy with her. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Moving forward, or backwards. Back to the future. In our DeLorean.
Topic. Stay on topic. Stay on topic.
1, 2, 3. All right, 1977. I was 10 years old. Happy to admit that. And you were?
I was like 7.
God. I know I'm old, but damn. 3 years old. Only 7?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, my God. So anyway, there it was, long time ago, the galaxy far, far away. Bam! There's Star Wars blaring on the screen. I never, ever saw anything like it before. And my God, my life was like my eyes were open for the very first time from that movie onwards.
The idea of sci-fi, or the idea of different worlds, the idea of cognitive storytelling in a sci-fi spacey universe?
Sure, we can be analytical now. Back then, it was like the best thing ever. I've never saw anything like it. I mean, sure, we had cheesy sci-fi like Flash Gordon, the old serials, but nothing like this. I mean, this was like top-grade beef, steak.
Beef.
Not that I want to compare Star Wars to meat, but
good.
you know when you have a really good...
That may be listening. Good for you. Go ahead. Keep going.
But when you have a really good meal, my God, you'll know the difference. So everything you start comparing to Star Wars, oh, that's not like Star Wars. No, that Buck Rogers remake, that's not like Star Wars. They look like Star Wars.
Is it me? Is it the first serialized sci-fi movie series you'd ever seen?
Mm-hmm.
On the big screen. That was also exciting.
Yeah. And at that age of my life, I did not want to see anything else. If we're going to see the movies, Close Encounters also came out at the same time. No, I want to see Star Wars again. But you've seen it like 25 times already. Yes, I know. I want to see it again. So it's one of those movies that I do not get tired of. At least a couple of hundred times I've seen this movie in the theaters, on videotape, if anyone remembers, and DVD. So it's in my blood, and I really want to, share that with you.
In your blood.
Not share my blood with you, but
thank you. Yeah, I don't.
But that was the first thing about merchandising that I still have my old Kenner toys. Even though I don't have them displayed because the cats and my children will destroy them. I still have them, and they're prized possessions. Even though they're out of container, that's a a wonderful time in my life that I keep dear.
Yes, you have that problem with it. No, baby, honey, don't play with that. That's not a toy. Oh, it is a toy. It means a lot to Daddy.
It's like, no. That's Daddy's toys. You go play with your toys. So with you, what are your memories?
Star Wars was just it was neat. It was a phenomenon. It's weird because the thing is that the interesting thing about the Star Wars universe is it grew with you. You know, I mean, we're talking about what 9 years for those sequels to come out, and the cool thing was you were getting older, you were maturing, you were watching it on television. You know, I don't think we had VHSs too much back then, so it was kind of a special thing back then. You couldn't watch the things. I still don't know the sequence of the James Bond movies of the Disney films.
It doesn't make a difference.
Properly. But you could watch. It was a special event going to the movies.
And back then you had one theater, not multiple around, multi-screen theaters. It was one theater, big screen. That was it. You know, so you had the one showing, and you were screwed. You would have to wait online, and that was the main thing of how blockbusters were from that point on, is that you would have to wait hours and hours and hours just to watch one showing. So that was the other thing that I remember in New York.
People clapped at the end of the movies. What
yes.
a weird phenomenon. They're not there. What are you people clapping for? People aren't there. Okay.
Although, getting not too far ahead, but when I saw Empire, I got upset. It didn't end on a happy note. Han was like taken away, and they'll never find him. Little did I know that, how they all planned it out. Like, oh, duh, because of Jabba. I didn't know that. I got really upset. Poor Han got his hand chopped off. The rebels got their butts handed to them. And Empire won. And my friend next to me is like, what are you getting upset for? I was like, but Han is gone. And I got so attached to them,
And so came 3 years of getting beaten up in the parking lot. Waiting for the next series.
But the one thing that I got upset about, my stepfather read in the New York Post about the new movie, Return of the Jedi. He told me, I guess you know about, Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker being brother and sister. I'm like, what? What? I thought you knew. It's like, no, I was just kidding, because he knew that I was getting upset because he ruined it for me. Of course, he did ruin it for me. But by then, Return of the Jedi kind of lost some of its steam, in my opinion.
We can go over the 50 reasons why you don't like Return of the Jedi anytime you want. But this is not
we don't have that long. Remember, 1, 2, 3 segments. That's all.
Right.
But you still keep it close to your heart. It's one of those movies you have to watch anyway. You want to know how it ends.
I think that every generation hopefully has this kind of movie-going experience. I mean, we had Star Wars. For the most recent generation, it would be, I would assume, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or
you could say that. Mm-hmm.
Potentially the Narnia series or what have you. But that doesn't quite have the spark and the kind of dramatic tension that we're looking for.
Right.
Because you get captivated, you get taken away to a different world, and that's really what a great movie does. It takes you to a place where you completely forget your environment, where you are, your past days in school or work or what have you, and takes you away to a different place and gives you hope and inspires you, and inspires your imagination and creativity, which is
I mean, exactly. John Williams' score was my first album ever that I bought for myself when I got my first record player.
Your record player.
And my record player.
Yes.
And I played that music over and over and over again, and that's how I developed my love for soundtracks, because of John Williams. And with that, I started seeing visual images from the movie. Back then we didn't have the VHS, but I could see the movie over and over again based on the music cues. So no matter where I was, I can hear the music, I can play the images, and I was watching the movie in my head no matter where I was going. So most of the time I didn't look like I was there, but I was there watching the movies in my head.
Well, that's also the emotional connection you get with music and memories. And the good thing is that for this moment, it was a positive one for you and very inspiring and motivating. Certainly does inspire ideas of bravery and happiness and proper do-gooding, if you will.
Yeah, and who didn't want to have the princess, that way? Rescuing her and being thankful that getting a medal in the end, that kind of thing. I mean, I had my old Star Wars figures like every Saturday morning.
Don't tell the
watching
story.
cartoons.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll tell a story. But, I would have these little adventures, in my tent that I would make out of my bed covers and use strings. I had them slide from one place to another, and, it was great. Those were my heroes, and I had no problems playing with them. I had a great time with those action figures. Not in a bad way, like people will start snickering about listening to this podcast, but in a very wholesome, good way of having my own adventures. And I just missed that time. Not that to say that, I want to go back and resort to that, but that was a nice time to remember and to be a part of.
It was
nice. Very, it's very entrenched into, my well-being. But right before we started doing the podcast, I wanted to bring up this fact. When Star Wars first came out, George Lucas said there was going to be 9 movies, 3 trilogies, and I looked it up on Wikipedia. Not that Wikipedia is the most trusted source, but
right. Anyone can add to Wikipedia, but go ahead.
It does mention in Wikipedia that right after George Lucas' divorce settlement in 1987, it says that Lucas had no desire to return to Star Wars and had unofficially canceled his sequel trilogy. Not prequel, sequel trilogy. So even though he denies that there were plans. So I was really ticked that he never went through with that. But thank God Timothy Zahn and his books, after the 5 years after Return of the Jedi, kind of really show us where the characters were after Return of the Jedi.
It was a good point. Yeah, I did enjoy the Shadows of the Empire. It was weird because you couldn't change continuity, between the 2 movies, and every character you created had to disappear, so they weren't movies. But it was okay, and they did a good job. There's a video game, there's a soundtrack, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But Monty, it looks like it's coming up time for our first break.
Okay. All right. Well, like James said, we're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the next Star Wars animated movie coming out on August 15th, which happens to be my birthday. So stay tuned, folks. And break. Happy?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's record that.
I've been saving that cough for the longest time. All right.
Okay.
So we're talking about the animated movie, animated series, and what role, what Star Wars holds for us, and talk about the action figures too.
Got okay. Oh,
okay.
And this. Oh yeah.
And a tuna fish sandwich.
Too much.
It's like tuna fish sandwich. What? Just put it in there. Okay. And we're back. All right, so for our second and last segment for this special Star Wars podcast, we're going to be talking about our upcoming second. Let's start over again. 1, 2, 3.
How do you edit this stuff? Just go ahead.
Editing is not a problem. I can just cut and paste things out, so don't worry. We can always start again.
Okay,
so,
good. Thank you.
You curse, I just bleep it out or whatever.
We keep this family-friendly, by the way? Or can I
yes, we are.
Okay.
To agree that I don't want to start bleeping us. We'll do another podcast monster sci-fi show.
Can I use it with MILF?
Oh God. Let's try not to use MILF or some other adjective to describe.
Okay, it was a great example. I rehearsed this. Go ahead.
Okay, and we're back. We're going to now talk about the upcoming animated movie, Star Wars Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars movie, which is coming out on my birthday, as I mentioned, which, oddly enough, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing, is going to see another Star Wars movie.
Who would have guessed this? Anyone?
You didn't see that coming.
No, not at all. Right out of
But
left field. Okay.
I'm kind of mixed on, first, is the animation style. It's kind of distorted a bit. Not that I have a problem with it, but when they start to translate it into the action figures, it doesn't really jive with me. I really hate it, almost, as far as collecting toys wise.
But the thing about it is, though, Monty, is that you're getting new stuff that is apparently canon, with what Lucas's vision was. I mean, this is basically an idea that came off from the Cartoon Network and the spin-off cartoons that were done.
Which were great. Yeah, which were phenomenal. They were fantastic.
But very stylized in them of themselves. The guy who did Dexter's Laboratory. Do you remember his name offhand? Can you pronounce it?
No, too many concepts.
I can spell it, but I can't say it.
Exactly.
This person did these great renderings and wonderful things that they put out. I believe in between the second and the third movie. Is that correct? Did I get my timing right?
Yes.
So
Correct.
it was magical to see that. It was neat because it expounded more on the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, for me, the question really is, why the prequels? I mean, the first part, second part, okay, fine. They can tell their own story. But that third movie, for me, you had to create Darth Vader. You had to knock off all the Jedis. A potential spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Poor Padme has to pass on. Which that I believe that. Yeah, nothing.
Oh, and yeah, we should have.
Oh, just so much difficulty with that, and I don't know how you feel about it, but you try and capture lightning in a bottle twice, and is it possible? I mean, you're so hungry for anything, anything Star Wars, anything touched by Lucas, and this, I don't know. To me, it didn't quite hit that apex for me. It's kind of like being younger, being in high school, and oh my gosh, the most popular girl in the class, the most attractive-looking girl, goes out with you, and for a while, you guys are on a wild ride. You're having a great time. You're talking. You're connecting. Wonderful time. And then you guys grow up. She goes to college, goes somewhere else. Then, years later, you see her again. She's older, but she's still attractive and still hot, and she remembers you. You remember her, and you try and connect again. And, she's...
Isn't that the premise of Indiana Jones and a crystal skull?
Potentially. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, my God. That's what it is.
But you want so much to be a part of her life again because you remember the wonderment. And, she's not available. She's with someone else, something else. But, she's got her younger, older sister who looks like she got hit by some 2x4. But you'll go out with it anyway just to, be in that family, to share that magic you had before.
And it's not the same.
No. Not nearly the same.
And trust me, I know firsthand what that felt like not too long ago.
Sorry, Monty. Universal dramatic theme to explain, okay, go ahead.
We can see relationships in anything that we do in life, but that's neither here or there. But in any case, no, you do make a valid point because the problem is that we grew up in a time when there was no Star Wars. Now, those are growing up, like my daughter's age, they have Star Wars coming up the wazoo. So, for them, that Star Wars New Hope may not be their Star Wars New Hope first impression.
Right.
Just like, Sean Connery and being the first James Bond. Depending on what time you grew up, that's not necessarily your James Bond. Mine was actually Roger Moore, not Sean Connery. But that's not to say that it's not bad, but it's just, it doesn't have the same magic, especially for us, when we see now this taking place in between the two, second and third movie. I didn't want that to happen either. My thing was when the last movie ended with Vader, where is Vader doing a lightsaber action. I want to see Vader fight. I want him hunt down some Jedi. Something. Great. He fits in a suit. We see him breathing. He's walking like stupid Frankenstein. I hated that, but give us more of that. You know.
You'll get that. If you have a PlayStation, Monty, or an electronic game device that's coming out, Forces Unleashed, pretty soon. I think sometime in September, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken.
And I just might invest in buying the Wii just so I can get that game because I love the wireless controllers.
You're
I
sure
have
your
the pleasure.
family has to eat? No, okay.
Not that day.
We're going to
But
McDonald's
honey,
for 29-cent hamburgers. Woo! Wednesday and
honey,
Sunday.
there's
Let's
grass
go.
outside. You can eat that. How about some stale crackers?
I mean, you'll get that. They're having a big push. They're releasing new action figures that were exclusive. They pushed it back, and you'll get kind of what you wanted. I mean, the thing for me is that it's Star Wars, and the thing is, it's still part of the mythology because the first line that Obi-Wan Kenobi hears from Princess Leia is you helped my father in the Clone Wars, and we're like, what the heck is the Clone Wars? Well, now we know,
Yeah.
and we're expanding on that.
Yes, and that's great. But now that we know what is going on, there's a finite amount of story that will be told. So it can only go on for so long that before you say, that's it, there's no more to the Clone Wars. You're putting yourself in a hole to begin with. I mean, it's great to fill in the gaps, but it's finite.
I had a problem. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go.
I had a problem with Episode 3 because you had to fill in the gaps, and towards the end of the movie, you knew exactly what had to happen.
Right.
And I had a real big problem with that because it wasn't. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't caught off guard like the whole Luke and Leia are brother and sister thing.
Yeah.
There was no surprise. You knew this stuff had to happen, and it kind of became anticlimactic. And also, something about these films is that if you weren't there during that time, you're not a part of it. You can't show your children the Star Wars things in any order and have them get excited about it.
Which brings up a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's say you're going to be showing someone Star Wars for the very first time. Where will you start? Episode 4 or Episode 1? Which order will you do it in?
That's a tough question. The thing that's interesting, though, today, I think, Monty, is that audiences are getting smarter, and there is a desensification going on. You haven't had a chance to see Dark Knight. I can't believe that, but
I saw Indiana Jones. At least I saw that.
3 months too late. But anyway, you've got a family. I'll excuse it. It's okay. Moving on. You're a dork in your own time, which perfectly fine. And your own
What
mom.
time is it? It's too late.
But it's a good question. But the thing is, I mean, these movies, when you have films like The Dark Knight, which is very violent, different take on the Joker. Sorry, just going to segue for a minute, then get back. And Watch is coming out. These movies are just over the top, and they set higher standards. And if your kid is growing up in today's world, it is a good question to say, well, where do you start?
For me, I would stick with leave it as a original version, starting with Episode 4. Not that it ruins it starting off with Episode 1, which I actually did to see it was a different feel, but it felt really like a long epic as opposed to, if you're new to this universe, I would just plop you right in. What the hell is all this about? That's what the great mystery is.
I tend to agree. But even though it is kind of dated, a little dated, the effects. But the thing is, the good thing is that Lucas did have the foresight to update the movies, to add computer animation, to go back with the special editions,
which we actually went to go see in the theaters again, which was a nice treat. Because before then, it was always on TV.
And perfect marketing. Nice. Then we'll come up with Episode 1. Like, oh, it's perfect. It's beautiful.
Brilliant.
I'm addicted again. What the heck? Crack?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's when the merchandising just went way over the top in Episode 1, in which, it was just way too much. It was Phantom Menace, everything from your toilet paper to the socks on your feet. It was just nuts. And, it blew up in their face because in the second and third movie they cut back on a whole tons of toys and merchandising material. I'm not going to say the other word, just because they know that they oversaturated the market. So I'm just wondering once again if that's the case right now.
The thing is that Star Wars will always make money. The idea is that they're feeding off our generation, Monty, the people who now have kids
and money
someday, and money who still want to recapture that magic. I mean, the dorky class does have the bucks. You know, we brought back Firefly. We liked Farscape. We do a lot of things, and there's money in it, and there's support. You know, the fans get what they want. If you have a following, you can do anything.
Oh, I totally agree. I just wish, at least for my own personal taste, because even though I've collected, the Attack of the Clone Wars, Wars action figures, not everything is, I have to buy. I'm become very, very picky and selective on what I will buy or plunk down my money on. So I'm not the type right now that will go to the midnight event down at Toys R Us just to wait for the new Star Wars toys event to open up.
That was such a weird thing. I didn't.
It was.
But I think again it's ingenious merchandising, and I
now,
think it's
well, I was going to say, well, Phantom it made perfect sense because people have been dying for Star Wars material. Period. So any new toys, that was perfect. But now he's like, well, you're doing this again. It's not that big of a deal, and it's to me it was just like you could have gone a different route with the propping of this.
But it's all about sensationalism, Monty. It's all about the idea of getting it in your face, getting it in your home, getting the products out there so that you'll ingest it and you'll believe it. The idea is to release the toys before the movies come out so that the kids are holding the toys in the theater. But it's a different time. It is much more aggressive. The funny thing to me is that back in our day, I mean, gosh, like a Man or any of the Star Wars figures that we had back in the 70s. Mind you, yes, I understand it's over 30 years ago, but anything mint in box from that time is worth hundreds. Why? Because you didn't have the kind of mass production back then that you do now. And, that stuff for the collectors, anything mint in box is beautiful. And it's history. It's a piece of history.
It is.
So, I don't know. It's a different world. It's a different time. We're evolving. Audiences are moving forward. But we'll see what happens with the animated series for the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to having a good birthday to begin with, but that's one of the good things about having this new series is that it will be launching on Cartoon Network, and hopefully this will give us some more things to chew on to kind of like, so that's what things we're heading towards, or just kind of like have those amazing moments that, of revelation that we come to expect from Star Wars. But I just think that, we may be at a certain point that it's time to look forward or tell a different Star Wars story altogether with different characters and start over again.
It's always good to come back to families. That's why the sequels are so important. You get one good film in, and you can do 2 or 3 more films, and people will always come back because it's like family. It's like coming home with your old friends you haven't seen in a while, and they have new adventures, hopefully, and, you get to spend time.
Yeah.
2 hours away from reality, I'll take it any time. Particularly now that you're older.
No one wants I'll take.
But, Monty, it's time for yet another break, it seems.
Well, unfortunately, it is going to be our last and only break because this is the end of the podcast for our Star Wars segment. So, funny you should mention that. But if you like the Star Wars podcast, please write us an email about that at themonsterscifishow@gmail.com. And you can address it to Mr. Gene. We'll more than be happy to answer any of your questions, or me, your host, the Monster. And hope that you like the podcast and stick around for another podcast because I have a library event that I'm planning in October, which is going to be kind of focusing around Star Wars. So you may want to pay attention for that one coming out soon. So with that, Mr. Gene, as always, thank you very much for your time.
A pleasure, as always.
And I'm signing off. Have a good night, folks.
Take care.
Bye. And break.
You didn't say the dork out thing.
No, I didn't. I'm trying variations. Sometimes he want it, sometimes he don't.
Oh,
I'll
and it
put
was
it
a
back
dork.
in.
Dork. What was the quote? It was
Sci-fi geek, sci-fi strong.
You know, I was trying to find something like that, and the only thing I could find like that, Monty, is Guillermo del Toro in his introduction to Hellboy. Even though he's got this really thick accent, he says, "Okay, here we have this interviews with Mike Mignola, blah blah blah." You know, it's funny. He's got this 17-second thing, and at the end he sits there and he goes, "And dork out, it's cool." And it's funny. It's just like brilliant. I love that.
Of course, it's perfect.
He's making multi-million, so you know it's.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this one we'll just do kind of a straight-through shot, maybe about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, so I'm setting my timer again.
Yeah.
You want to discuss the idea to me before? Well, we're recording now, but so you explain your idea, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna set the stage up of what I'm planning to do as far as the event, and then this is the idea for Star Wars, and just kind of talk about things to consider. First, we've got to keep it simple to begin with, because we're under a time constraint. But what elements can we put in there and then kind of play with and just focus on, okay, if the aliens do this, how will we get to that point? Or, just have logical conclusions to whatever, because I'm going to have to prove my arguments or prove, oh, this makes sense, and you're like, well, no, because aliens wouldn't do that, or Jedi's would do this, or,
okay.
just kind of,
go ahead. When we're
not
tape
important.
here.
Yeah, just burning tape.
You explain your story, and I'll interject.
Okay. Okay, welcome to another Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. This one is going to be a little different from all the others. This is going to be something based around an event that I'm playing on my library come October 15th for Teen Read Week. I am planning a Create Your Own Comics event, and I'm looking at different ways of helping kids, teens, maybe even some adults, create their own comics, learning how to write, to draw, putting it together, publishing it both online and through various other mediums. And I thought it would make sense for me to have an actual comic produced on what I'm going to be talking about. So one of the ideas that I had, and this was based on some events that happened, and I'm going to kind of quickly piecemeal some things together and see how my thought processes came to fruition. I'm seeing my co-worker, and I'll name him right now. I will just say A. A as in the letter A. Okay. A is standing in front of a window inside the library looking out with his hand clasped behind him. And the stance that he has reminds me of Vader or Anakin from the Attack of the Clones, in which he is looking at the Naboo Vista. And I walked up to him and I said, this is reminding me of Star Wars and blah, blah, blah. So before we start talking about the movies, and the desk that he's standing next to had an electronic stapler. Now, this electronic stapler, if you hit a certain button, has a little piece that juts out. Now, since it was all black and the little piece that jutted out was all silver, I'm like, oh my God, that's just like an alien creature. For some reason, I started having this weird concoction of, what if we had aliens versus Star Wars Jedi Knights? So since Arnold is going to be helping to do some of the workshops, and he came up with a kind of the give and take on the storyline, this started to become an actual proposition. We started playing around with what would happen in this kind of crossover of aliens versus Jedi. So with that, I'm going to bring in my dear friend, Mr. Gene, to kind of help bounce off some ideas. And basically what I'm going to do is make a series of podcasts in which we're going to be talking about our ideas and kind of record them kind of for like more a diary purpose so people can see the process and see how we think, what problems we had, and kind of reflect on what we're trying to shoot for, and then with the end product, hopefully all the hard work that we've put in will show in the end. So, Mr. Gene.
Yes.
I'm bringing you in now into the fold.
So here we are in development hell. Ah, yes.
Yes. We know that all too well. So
that your listeners know, I do have a degree in motion picture screenwriting. Hooray, yay, and I studied that. Of course, haven't been able to do anything with it because that's generally what happens when you go out in the real world. You dream hard, you try it for a while, and then you have to eat. But anyway, I still have the creative notions and idea of the story structure and a creative, hopefully, mind. Okay. So.
Right. And that's what we cling on to. Star Trek reference. Whoa, no, wrong movie. No, we hope that we use our talents for the greater good, and we did like the idea of having an actual comic book event. Us being big, huge comic book geeks, we want to write one day. So why not produce our own comic? So us being big sci-fi geeks and love movies, sci-fi movies of all different types, this would be kind of like a what-if, Elseworld, Infinity series type of story. What if we had aliens meet Jedi?
And for now, we're completely forgetting the copyrights of these things.
These are only for educational purposes. We're not infringing anyone's copy, right.
We're just having fun.
We're just having fun.
And
not that we're planning to pitch this to Dark Horse, which owns both rights of the franchises, but it would be very great if they could say, wow, this is really cool. Maybe we should do something like that. But that's way too early for us to say. Anywho.
So tell me, Monty, where does your story start? And timeline? What generation of Star Wars are we going through? The thing that's interesting about the Alien, universe is that basically you can introduce just about anything to it. We've had Superman fighting aliens. Of course,
right.
We've had the Predators.
Ant-Man versus Predator.
Right. We've had all of these things. I mean, aliens have shown up everywhere in every sort of neck of the universe, the creative universe in some way, shape, or form of the sci-fi universe.
Right.
So this is a perfect thing. I don't think they've ever done an Alien meets Star Wars kind of thing.
No. Although I did think about Star Wars meets Star Trek Next Generation, but that's just more fan fiction, nothing along this line. But who knows what could happen in the future. So what I thought about was that, one, it would not take place in any of the timelines of the movies for both trilogies. This is going to be a foregone fact. It will not happen then. We thought about perhaps it could be in the future, way into the future, with similar players as far as there were Sith, there are Jedi Knights. There will be a new Jedi Temple. There will still be Sith Lords, but not any characters that we would know today. There may be similar races that we can say, oh, that's just like who was, thousands of years ago or something to that effect. So at least we'll be somewhat familiar, but not the actual characters.
Well, so you're basically looking for a gray area in the Star Wars universe. The interesting thing about that idea is that you have a perfect opportunity right now, potentially with the Force Unleashed video game coming out, which is, to my understanding, only coming out in a video game format. But
right.
The idea is that, to my understanding, I think Darth Vader is trying to hunt down rogue Jedi, and there's some of them that have escaped. So that's an interesting idea. And for me, they're going to create new characters, of course, for that, good and bad. And I think that might be an interesting idea as well, because the idea of having Jedi scattered throughout with new villains isn't a bad idea.
Right. And
we have until October. So
yeah, or even less, because we have to not only write it, but we have to have it illustrated. And not only illustrated, but also produced to be printed. So we're in a very, very tight schedule. So for the story is pretty elaborate, meaning I can do several books. I need to focus on something simple. The beginning of a story that ends on a cliffhanger that if you read it from beginning to close, you're like, what happens next. So I need to have that kind of what happened next episode moment, which I have in my head, but I'm not sure how to work this all in.
So the basic premise of your idea is what?
Okay. Going back to reference to Darth Bane, there's always been an apprentice and a master with the Sith. It's always been that way for generations, before, during, and after. It gets to a point that one apprentice wants to break off from that. So it's another sect, another sect from the actual Sith Lords. Now, his perception is that why not have massive amounts of Sith Lords or Sith warriors at his disposal, similar to what the Jedi did in the Attack of the Clone Wars, in which they had clone troopers at not necessarily their bidding, but that was their muscle. Since the Jedi's were not as numerous in numbers, they had the firepower to back it up.
Okay, so how do you cross the alien creatures?
Right. One of the process was this apprentice was somehow during training or through some incident will find a planet or come across this type of alien creature. Now, he would survive the encounter, but knowing and have an epiphany of what these creatures are capable of doing. And the reference for that, Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi, when he was being captured by the Ewok, and it was a very quick scene, and I remember him kind of looking around, kind of like smiling, like, oh my God, these are what we've been looking for type of looks. So this Sith Lord or Sith apprentice is going to have that same kind of epiphany with the alien creatures. Now, what we know of the alien creatures is that they are highly adaptable to the host they're in. So whatever traits, certain characteristics, basically will become that alien. We've seen that in, even though I have not seen the latest Predator Alien movie, there is some kind of crossbreed of a Predator Alien which has some type of dreadlocks in the back, which is a crossbreed between the two races.
Right. I think this is a good idea because you're using the Star Wars universe and you've got different forms of Jedi and things like that.
Exactly.
And it's cool to use your imagination to try to design that. And
right. So we have, we can do lots of different variations of different aliens. We can have, like the Toydarians, which is Wattos, who are immune to the Force. If you have an alien that is going to be immune to the Force, imagine a Jedi Knight fighting against one of those aliens that he can't use his Force powers at all. He tries to fight with a lightsaber, and of course we know that they have acid for blood. They're fierce creatures. They're going to have to do hand-to-hand combat, and that hand-to-hand combat is going to be over in a second, not in the favor of the Jedi.
Question for you. Yes. Lightsaber hitting an alien, what would happen? The lightsaber cauterizes the skin and
I understand that,
blood,
but
so
still,
what would happen if it
there'll be something that will still shoot out. He can still be blinded because the alien still has certain other modes of attack with the extra mouth shooting out. He's got the tail. So there's still a lot of powers that he can still have.
I think it's interesting, Monty, your idea about having it attack Watto's, his race, because they are force resistant, and they can fly, and they're small. If you get a whole slew of these things, they're nightmarish. They're just...
Exactly. Now, mix that in with aliens that do have force capabilities or are force sensitive. Now you don't know which aliens are which as far as, okay, this is the one that can crush its lungs from a distance. This is the one I have to fight up close. So you have a mixture of different types of alien crossbreeds all in the mix. So this is where it gets really crazy because you can do so many different things, but the actual Jedi Knights who fight them are going to be decimated, pretty much.
This is very ambitious, Monty. It can go on
Yes,
for volumes.
exactly. So, what I said earlier, we got to keep this very simple because I'm only just doing one book. I want it so that it ends on a moment of what happens next. Okay.
The problem you're going to have here is, though, you have to establish the characters and who they are from the
Right.
onset. And that, introducing these whole new characters that you've created in this universe, is going to take up some instruction. And then, okay.
So basically what we need to do is set up what the Sith apprentice, if that's what the angle I'm going to go with, his ambition, his encountering of this new race, and then showing what this new alien would look like. The one image has always been stuck in my head since the beginning of this discussion, and I thought this would be a great moment. Would it be possible if an alien would use a lightsaber?
Or is that
It
hypocrite?
can be trained because it has knowledge to operate machinery based on the movies.
It hits the button by accident. It's a random occurrence.
No. But if it watches others use devices, it has the ability to learn. Now, I'm not saying that I want to have a General Grievous type of creature, but if you have now an alien who is force sensitive, who is a formidable warrior to begin with, now with a lightsaber, it can now do things that it would not have done otherwise. Close combat from a distance. I mean, it's like the perfect warrior.
It is, but the thing is, that it's a perfect creature in and of itself. I mean, think about this for a second. The motivations behind the alien creatures is they're purely instinctive. They're not generally intelligent. They have a hive mind kind of thing.
Exactly. But what's their purpose? It's to populate.
Right, to reproduce.
Their purpose is to populate. Okay. You introduce, and I'm using this reference to a Star Trek reference. Okay. The founders.
Like a college paper. Go ahead.
Cliff notes. What? I didn't need to read the book. You look at the founders, which are the shapeshifters of Odo's people. Okay. They had races that were monkeys, basically, and they tapped into their evolution and raised them up to a higher level. And in turn, the founders were looked upon themselves as gods were doing this for them. If you give the aliens this new awareness with the need of population growth that will be exponential, it will be a higher level of reasoning.
Well,
That's too far-fetched.
What I was thinking when you pitched this idea of aliens and Jedis, my mind naturally gravitated not towards the Sith using them as a device to exterminate the Jedi, or better get a hold of repopulate their stance in the universe. But I took it as a philosophical question, because initially when you said alien and Jedi, I thought aliens versus the huge Jedi that's kind of evolved from some creature on any planet, and it's terrifying, But and I thought, well, that's silly because it can't be reasoned with. It's just a killing thing. It just wants to reproduce, and it just wants to, put you in the egg chamber, what have you. But then the question came in, and this is why I think it was interesting for me. The idea was that, okay, well, let's say a Jedi gets a facehugger put on him. And the interesting to me is that the Jedis are always generally spiritual. Or at least the good guys are. Their whole thing is about, it's a religion, essentially. And the midichlorians in their blood, I thought, what if, a Jedi, say a Jedi master or something, gets a facehugger put on them? What does that mixture of the midichlorians inside whatever comes out, what is that?
Yes.
And the thing that go ahead.
You could say it's like a genetic rape, almost.
A little strong, yeah, but correct. But the thing is that then you have this incredible killing machine, because when I think about aliens, I think about sharks. They're the perfect killing machine. and they have their purpose. I mean, sharks have their purpose too, but this is pretty much a very aggressive kind of species.
Right.
So, how does this work? And when I thought about it, I imagined, well, let's see, Luke was able to use the midichlorians in his blood to make his lightsaber jump to him. What if the alien can do this as well?
Right.
But based sheerly out of rage or, what have you, that it can cause chaos to occur.
Right. Now, if you can think about how a Sith Lord will use anger and all this on Jedi emotions, I mean, there's no way you can scare an alien creature. There's no way you can really knock it off its game. The only way that it was held back a bit was when Ripley, and this is with the Queen, was ready to torture or blow up the eggs from the Queen.
Right, but that's an instinctive mother instinct.
Right. So that's the only way that you can do that. But on a whole other level, that's going to be kind of hard to do now.
That'd be a very clever story, Monty.
Because now they don't have to have that instinctive fear. They can overcome that. But now, long term, and this is just one of those things that, okay, let's say you do have these Jedi that are been wiped, that they've been genetically raped. Generically, whatever.
Generically raped?
Generically raped. Like, okay, I'm just going to rape just generically, not just old-fashioned kind, just, generically. Genetic.
It wasn't
rape.
sexual. It was spiritual. What?
It was genetic. Generic. Okay. Just like with the Borg, you made an enemy perfect. How do you defeat it? Oh, you just put it to sleep. That I hate it with the Borg in Star Trek. But with the alien creature now with force-sensitive capabilities, now we got a real creature that will be a Sith army of mass proportions that is unseen, has been unheard of. How will we defeat an enemy of that capability? That was a question that I still have not answered, at least not yet.
It's a difficult question. I mean, it's a difficult question because, Monty, the question really becomes, can aliens be trained? Are they intelligent?
They can be. If you look at Alien Resurrection, they can be.
Okay.
So, one of the things that I'm going to be doing as homework is looking at over all the Alien movies, even the crappy
Enjoy
third
Alien
one.
3.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Have fun with that.
Yeah, we just love David Fincher's work on that, and a bald Ripley.
Yeah.
Yeehaw. So, on that note, that's just going to be food for thought. That's what I want to leave off with. Just some ideas, some impressions, where we head from this point on. It's a work in progress. So, any other final thoughts, suggestions I should head off into?
No, just you got to figure out your hardest point about doing this project is getting a solid timeline in this and establishing your characters up front. It's got to be done quickly and efficiently. You've got to set up the time for it. You can do that through a very explaining monologue about when it is taking place in the Star Wars universe. Personally, I like the idea of introducing your characters, going through 3/4 of the issue, just introducing the characters, and then having them come upon the alien eggs, which is where the story starts. And then having, it could be a survival thing, and they don't know what it is.
Right, exactly. Even though we will be familiar with the traditional what they're going to do, which is the face hugger, the egg laying, the chest bursting, we'll see that. But when we see the alien now with the Force, that's completely different. That we've never seen before, a new alien species.
I mean, I think just the idea of having maybe a double spread shot of your Jedi with the lightsaber ignited coming across, a whole collection of alien eggs. That in itself will tell the story from where you're going. So focus us first on the characters, establishing that, when it happens, who the characters are, what that political situation is, and then go and have that shot, wandering through the forest, and then there you are, and then from there it explains itself, and then everyone knows what's going to happen.
Right, and that's where we will have that moment of what happens next.
And it draws your audience in.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to have this all done, that we'll have a digital version of it, that it can be viewed online.
Lucas comes after you, or Dark Horse comes after you.
Or, which is, and what's not, and I said, wouldn't it be great if Dark Horse says, this is a cease and desist letter, stop playing with our characters. But in all honesty, if we even get mentioned, or even get that letter, that means, we've hit a nerve.
We're a potential threat.
It's a good nerve. It's a really good thing. Not that we're doing anything bad, because we love these characters. We want to play in that universe. That's all we want to do.
The labor of love.
Exactly.
And that letter will go right next to your rejection.
My rejection letter from Star Trek.
Star Trek, right.
So my goal is to have rejections letters from every type of series that's out there. It's like, dear Montgomery, don't write to me ever again. There is no more Firefly. Sorry, Josh.
Dear Monty, yeah, I'm using Fox. They're paying. I eat steak. Thank you.
By the way, watch Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. You'll like it. Trust me.
Except it ends sadly. And
yes, it does. And I got like, oh my God, this is like Empire that Strikes Back. It ends on a downer. Now I gotta wait for the return of the Dr. Hammer? No. Whatever. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast I'm not going to go into. So, as I end this podcast, remember, this is not going to be against Dark Horse, Star Wars, or aliens for any reason. We're big fans. We want to be writers. We love comics. We just want to be part of your world and have lots of fun in it. So don't get upset. There are lots of people like us that want to do this for a living. So with that, I will bid you adieu. So, Mr. Gene, have a good night, sir.
Good eve. Good eve, all. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Good night.
And break. Okay. Wasn't too bad. Mr. Gene. Hello? Mr. Gene? Hello? All right, I'm going to end the call.